Jesus was certainly right. It's in a surprising way, he was not successful with people, the learned and the wise of his day. We all know that he was condemned by the Sanhedrin, the group of elders, in the end, by a great majority. We know that he had, as you read the scriptures, that he had continual criticism from both the Pharisees and the Sadducees. Pharisees being people who were serious, really, about reading, reflecting, and responding to the Jewish scriptures. So it's kind of counterintuitive that God would reveal himself in Jesus Christ, and yet the very people that you'd expect to have welcomed him, the leaders of the Jewish faith, had trouble with it. It wasn't what they expected. We can certainly understand that the Romans had no time for it because they were the conquerors, but that the people who had reflected, were serious about their faith, did not fully accept him was a shock, in a way, is a shock even today. But it's not unusual that even today that it's still true that the wise and learned often have no time for faith, right? Many of our universities are determinedly secular. They don't, that doesn't have anything to do. That's not where, that's not believable. So we find that, so Jesus, for some reason, people who are self-sufficient or even sure of either their secularity or in Jesus' case, some of their religion, were not open. But it was certainly true, as you read the scriptures, that people who were laboring and were burdened found in him a message of redemption. They found in him the sinners of this world, the people who in some cases were subsistence farmers, or in other cases fishermen, or in other cases just people with their lives that had crashed. They found in him a place, in his meekness, in his humility, in his love, a yoke that could give them life. When he says his yoke is easy and his burden light, it's an invitation to those whose lives are not going as they want, whose families are broken in particular ways, for those who share a little bit of the humility that Jesus had to find a true home, to find a way out, to find a companion, God, on our trip. In the past year, last March a year ago, when Pope Francis was elected, you remember that, well, our response was, wow, what a different kind of Pope. But it wasn't only limited, actually, to Catholics, because many of my Protestant minister friends, Unitarians, all kinds, said, wow, I'm really impressed with it. And it wasn't so much what he said, it's the way. It was a kind of a meekness and humility that seems quite natural to him. That is to say, is natural to who he is as a person. And that found, even if someone doesn't even believe in Jesus, for example, they found in that attractive. And I think that's what people found in Jesus, that meekness, that humility, that they could find in that the true acceptance of their life. And they could take that yoke and they could bear it. Jesus' invitation to us is, he was a carpenter after all, so who would make these yokes? Well, he would have been an expert at fashioning the yokes that animals are used. But when he says that it's easy, you know that most yokes have at least two animals. Not some are individual, but many have two. And he's saying, take my yoke. Who's on the other side? Jesus. Right? Right? I mean, that's why it's easy. That's why the burden's light. It's an invitation to trust that He will bear the burden with you, that God will. That the brokenness of your life or the end of your life, say the yoke is you're nearing the end of your life. And you're afraid. To bear that yoke with Christ is everything. Or your job ended in a spectacular crash, your job or something. I mean, it happened to so many people. To bear that with Christ, to bear or maybe our own sinfulness caught up with us and we're ashamed and broken. To bear that, to have Him as a yoke companion, to bear the shame, the guilt, the brokenness is everything. So I invite you, or I should say Jesus invites you, not me. Jesus invites you to take seriously His yoke. If there's a part of your life that is simply just beyond your power to lift, beyond your capability to make sense of, well, then perhaps choose the Lord in some way this week, either in your personal prayer or reflection. Let the Lord speak to you. Let Him invite Him to take the yoke too. The shame, the brokenness, the guilt, the fear, whatever it might be in your life. And I believe, and I know it to be true for myself, that you will find it easier and you will find it light. And that the burden of your sadness or your brokenness will be half or more with this. So that's the invitation to all of us today. Let Him take His yoke. Share that with Him. Share your brokenness. Share your sadness. Share your need.